Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about our feelings and the feelings that sometimes we don't really want to feel, and that many of us spend a lot of energy trying to avoid, and what happens to those emotions, and how giving ourselves permission to feel them in love and acceptance can actually help heal them versus getting us stuck in them. So when we try to avoid difficult emotions or ones that we find to be a little bit unpleasant, we can distract ourselves from them, we can push them down, we can avoid them, but they don't go away. So they don't just disappear if we put them aside or we don't look. That they end up kind of accumulating within us, and we store them in different parts of our body and in our psyche, and they will end up coming up in different situations. So those emotions that we kind of say we don't want to feel and so we avoid them, those end up becoming our trigger points. And when something sets us off, those emotions can become really heightened and resurface and make quite exaggerated reactions to situations that maybe don't merit quite that strong of a reaction. So these emotions don't just disappear. They also can be stored within our cells, within our muscles. I know that myself, I store a lot in my hips, in my low back. And so if there are things that I don't want to be feeling, they end up showing up in back pain and hip pain. And that is kind of my distractor from the actual emotion. And if I don't work through the emotion, it turns into physical pain, which then we all know that also creates irritation and frustration within us that makes the everyday tasks that much harder. So it brings up negative ways of relating to the world, of being in the world, even though we think we have avoided that emotion. That emotion still is affecting the way that we show up in everyday life. And so we know that we cannot just avoid these hard emotions. We can't just deny them and kind of push them aside and get on with our lives. It doesn't work. They end up coming back and affecting us in many different ways that turn into the way we're relating to other people, relating to ourselves, and relating to the world. So it's clear that we have to be present for these emotions. We can't just ignore them. So what does that look like, and what does that mean? And these emotions, we've kind of labeled the way that they interact with our being. So if I'm angry, I have an idea of what anger is expressed as in everyday life. That I yell, or I get tense, or maybe I do something I regret later. And we have this image that that's anger, so we don't want to feel anger because we don't want to express it in that way. But the good news is that those expressions of the emotion are not necessary. So they are kind of creations of how we've labeled the emotion in our society, what we've been taught that that's what it looks like, and how it kind of appears and manifests in our daily lives. But that's just how we transform and let out the energy of anger. Anger itself and what it does within us doesn't necessarily have to look like those reactions. So when we start relating to our emotions in this way and knowing, oh, I can have a response to this emotion that serves me better, that I can still feel it, I can still interact with that energy, but it doesn't have to take me over and create a negative reaction out in the world. It's not as scary to express the emotion. So we can kind of reinvent the way this energy is present within us and what we do with it and how it interacts with the world around us. The other thing that's really important is that we don't stay with the story of why we're angry or why we're sad or why we feel disappointed. Because the story, that's just gonna continue snowballing the emotion and heightening it within you over and over. And oftentimes when we tell the story, we blame other people or we blame outside circumstance for why we're feeling this. And as we're doing that, we're projecting everything outward and we're not taking care of anything inward. And what that does is it re-triggers the emotion over and over within us, and it justifies that emotion in kind of a victim mentality. Of course I feel this way. Listen to this story, right? And then it re-triggers that emotion within you. Whereas, science has found that physiologically, an emotion once triggered, the effect is only 90 seconds. So that surge of, those hormones within you, that only lasts 90 seconds of what happens physically in your body. And that if that continues, it's because you're feeding the story and you're re-triggering it. So when we deal with these emotions, these things help us to not get trapped in the hole of the emotion. One, we can choose how we be with the energy of the emotion. And two, we do not want to perpetuate and continue the story behind the emotion. So what do we do? Well, we notice, we get in touch with what's happening within us. We get in touch with the energy of the emotion. We feel it in our body, and we just notice what it feels like to be in that. So it probably changes things physiologically within your physical form. Some things are probably going to tighten. There might be some certain pains that come up. Your stomach might do certain things. Your head might get really tight and maybe painful. Be with that. Not the story behind it, but just feel that. And when you feel that within the body, give it compassion, give it acceptance, give it understanding, and most of all, give it love. I know that you are here and I care for you and I'm giving you love, and it's okay that you're here. What do you need? And you do the same thing in your mind. This is not the story as to why. We're not blaming external things. We're just noticing. What thoughts does this bring up within me? What am I thinking about myself or others or the world because of this emotion? So when you're in a certain emotional state, it's going to change your thoughts about self and the world around you. Just notice that with empathy towards self. Wow, that perspective really hurts. It doesn't feel very good. And I know that you are here. I know that you are that emotion. And I'm sorry, and I'm here for you. What do you need? And then you do the same thing with the heart and the spirit. How does that show up in the heart and the spirit? What does that emotion do to your intentions, to your ability to show up for others and connect with the world, to your hope, to your inspiration? And when you're noticing these changes in the heart and the spirit, you identify, I know that you are this emotion creating this. I welcome you. I'm sorry that you're here. I'm sorry that you're feeling this. What do you need? What can I do? And now we're developing this understanding of the emotion and we're understanding its need. And then when we hear that need, now we come back to our intention to be with it in love. We're not pushing it away, we're not fighting it, we're not angry with it. We're saying, okay, I've heard what you need. How can I offer that to you? And we remember our resources. We remember our self-care practices. We remember our favorite places to go, maybe out in nature. We give ourselves space and time, and we nurture these emotions in the body. So nurture these side effects of the emotion in the body. If the body is fatigued, give it some rest, give it some love. We nurture them in the mind. If the mind is really busy and frazzled, listen to some soothing nature sounds, take a bath, help calm the mind. If the heart and spirit is feeling a little bit darkened and collapsed inward, do some heart opening exercises or engage in things that inspire you, your creativity. And this is what actually brings us through the emotion, is through the love and the nurturing. And we only got there because we truly listened to the emotion and what it needed. Not to the story of the emotion, but to the actual manifestation of the emotion in our body, our mind, and our spirit. And we listened and we said, what do you need? And then we came to our intention to honor that. And that's what brings us back into peace and healing, even if we are struggling through some difficult emotions. And it allows us to give ourselves permission to feel all things and know that all emotions are welcome and all emotions are a part of this miraculous gift of life. So this week, I invite you to be with your emotions, listen to them, understand them, and nurture them. And if you enjoy these little talks and would like to join us for a group session or individual coaching, you can visit us at newleafmindfulness.com, and don't forget to like and share. I hope to see you all very soon.